Welcome into the Cowboys Report. Before we dive into the latest on the Dallas Cowboys, we're in a sub-battle this month against the 49ers Report. We've got a narrow lead, but I think we have a chance to expand that lead before we get into week one. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. We will have a ton of videos for you over the next couple of days with roster cuts and waiver wires and everything else. So hit that sub button if you haven't already. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV. Let's dive into some injury news as we wait for more news on cuts, which I think will come today. Brian Schottenheimer had a rather positive update on the Tyler Guyton front, saying, quote, "I think he's a little bit like Trevon. He's trending in the right direction. Hopefully, we get him doing something out on the grass as early as this week." If you don't know what Schottenheimer means, he means practicing. That's what it means to be out there on the grass and not doing rehab stuff there. So I love hearing this. I mean, this is good news on the Tyler Guyton injury front. I'm not sure he's going to be able to play in week one. That's kind of still right in the middle of that 4 to 6 week timeline injury recovery. It was always going to be a stretch goal, but like a doable potential goal. You might have felt better if it was on Sunday and not on Thursday. But I do think we're on a good recovery path here. From what Schottenheimer said versus what Mike McCarthy said previously, I kind of felt like maybe the Cowboys didn't love the way Guyton attacked some of his bumps and bruises and injury stuff last year, and he needed to do a better job of rehabbing and be tougher in general. Not the vibe I'm getting from right now, which is a good thing. I think maybe, at worst case, he's back by week 2. You know, that they play it cautiously with maybe both him and Diggs and don't jeopardize them playing the tight turnaround on Thursday, or the earlier game, I should say, on Thursday. But again, this is, again, the positive updates, consistent drum beats of this Cowboys regime seems to like and be a lot more publicly praising of Tyler Guyton than they need to be. You know, I don't want to crap on the guy too much, but you don't get the same vibes coming out of the building and from what they've said publicly compared to Monty Smith, for example. And Guyton wasn't good enough last year. We know that. But a lot of this Cowboys offense is it is built around the offensive line being good. And if the offensive line isn't good, then you do limit your ceiling. The floor can still be pretty high with your pass catchers and passing game, but you need this offensive line to be a linchpin of this unit. That's led by a guy, he's first-round pick after all. Now, in the event Guyton can't go week 1 or whatever, it does certainly feel like Nathan Thomas is the next man up to play behind Tyler Guyton. He seemingly won that left tackle job. Sure seemed to beat out Austin Richards, who played deep into the third preseason game in a way that Nathan Thomas didn't actually play at all, which I wonder if he would have been better served getting more reps. He doesn't play a lot of football, so still, he's the next man up. So predictions. Will Tyler Guyton play in week 1? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. It is the pinned comment, by the way. Y for yes, N for no. Let's go to the Jaydon Blue injury update here. He reportedly suffered a low ankle sprain and is hopeful to be ready for week 1. That update coming in from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, who had it first. I am glad this seems to be a minor injury. I'm not going to call it a red flag, but like it's not a beige flag. So I don't know. Does that make it orange if you mix beige and red together? I don't love that he got banged up again. I get a little bit concerned for a guy that hasn't played a lot of football. He's got like 700 carries between high school and college. Like, less than Ashton had 2 years of Boise. Like, he has not been a heavy workload guy, which isn't a bad thing. It keeps him fresh and it increases his NFL career length. But I do want him to stay healthy because I need him. Like, I need Jaydon Blue on this team making plays and being probably just a situational back in year 1. And, you know, maybe it's not 15 touches a game. Maybe it's not even 10. But I think his big playability matters. I think it is valuable. Look, Javonte Williams is clearly on this team. I think he's going to be a factor. That is insanely obvious, frankly. He's here. He's not going anywhere. But Miles Sanders, we'll see. I think the only guys that are locked into the roster running back are Williams, Blue, and Lipke. It might only be those guys. Maybe they do some veteran stuff. We'll see about Maffa and Deuce and Miles. But I think an ideal outcome is you get to the end of the season and you see Jaydon Blue as, okay, he is one of our pieces in the backfield. Probably might need somebody else, but he's clearly one of them. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Preseason football is underway. In fact, it's now finished. College football is underway. So don't miss any of the action this season on Prize Picks. It's simple. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Keep an eye out for some of their max discounts. Dak Prescott, more than a half passing yard. It's essentially a freebie in week 1 of the season. Just throw it into every single one of your lineups. Xavier Worthy, I'm going to add with the Dak one, more than 3.5 yards on the ground because it's just a little jet sweep action, which Chiefs like to do. Do the reverse. Would anyone be surprised by that? Classic Andy Reid. Ashton Genty, I'll go with the half touchdown as well. So go download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's go to Caelen Carson. There has not been much of an injury update on the injury front for Carson, which I don't want to read into the lack of updates, but I do want to acknowledge the lack of updates here because we're in the very beginning of the 4 to 6 week injury timeline for Caelen Carson, with the high ankle is always going to be like a question mark if he was going to be able to play or not in week 1. Seems noteworthy to me that it's been so quiet on the Carson front. And he's one of the players the Cowboys might have to make a decision on. Like, does he begin the year on injured reserve? They're obviously not going to put Trevon Diggs on IR, but he's probably not going to play. Might not play. I hope he plays, but we'll see about him playing in week 1. Last year when the Cowboys were banged up, they started Caelen Carson. I thought he actually played pretty well against the Cleveland Browns, and then I think he lost his confidence. And when you lose confidence as a corner, you're in trouble. And he struggled down the way, and then the shoulder injury popped up, and they kind of just stopped playing him and put him on IR, and now he's banged up again, and that's all concerning. The cornerback room, I don't know what it's going to look like. Bland's going to make it. Diggs will make it for week 1. Kyer Elam will make it. I think Andrew Booth will make it. That's 4. 5th is going to be at least one of Keemon Hall or Zion Childress. I put Izzy Mukwamu on my 5th because he can do every single spot on the Cowboys roster in the secondary, plus play special teams. But if Carson's on the active roster week 1 and isn't just like an injured guy or, carry him through and put him on IR like they're going to do with Jonathan Mingo, or I guess they could announce those guys as IR candidates, I don't know what they're going to do. There's some decisions to be made there at corner. Not that they're the best options, but some tough ones to make. Plus, he was a draft pick. The Cowboys love those guys. I just wonder if he's a potential IR stash to begin the season. But then you're going to have Savone Revel in the same spot. The math is not mathing here, is kind of what I'm saying. So will Caelen Carson be on the active roster for the Cowboys in week 1? A for yes, B for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, I would argue, as I'm sure many of you would too, Cowboys need help on the roster. Defensive tackle, maybe a running back, maybe a corner. Add good players in general. What I think the Cowboys would be more inclined to do is trade away players, potentially for draft picks, but if you could flip one of your depth pieces somewhere to go get an actual viable nose guard, an upgrade over Mozzie and the Funky Bunch, I would do it in a heartbeat. Now, some of the best candidates already got traded: Harrison Phillips, Derek Nandi, which pains me dearly, but that's what I would consider if I were the Cowboys. So, will they make a trade? We'll mention some top trade candidates here in just a second, some potential options the Cowboys could send out. 1 for yes, 0 for no. First up is Mozzie Smith. And I don't think they cut him because of the money. I think would probably get claimed, which kind of negates it. But I would assume that if you were going to think he's going to get claimed, you could trade him. If you get me a defensive tackle, I am open to this. This offseason, hearing the weight stuff and then I have concerns. I think even if you keep Mozzie, you still need another defensive tackle, like at least one. But the only way this makes sense to me is if you get a defensive tackle somehow, whether it's in a separate trade or whatever. I don't think you can legitimately go into the year with Jay Toia and Perrion Winfrey as your nose guard options. Like, what are we doing out there? All right. How about any offensive lineman almost? Like, you have a tremendous amount of depth here along your offensive line. Obviously, Guyton is banged up, but Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, Terrence Steele are going to be your starters with him. Nathan Thomas seems in line to be the second option at left tackle. But you've got guys who could be on your roster and are NFL caliber players. TJ Bass, Awesome Richards, Brock Hoffman, maybe Sadiq Charles, who I know Todd Archer likes, Hakeem Adeniji, Ajani Cornelius. You cannot roster all of those guys. You have to cut at least 2 of them when you already cut Lyle Collins. You can't carry 11, 12 offense linemen. That's not how the numbers game works. 11 alone would be crazy pushing it. So I would anticipate that you could shop an Awesome Richards, shop an Adeniji maybe, shop a Sadiq Charles, which I don't think he's got a ton of value. I think Bass or Richards. Dark horse of Brock Hoffman, by the way, who I would not trade because I think he's a good backup center for you too, could actually fetch you back a competent defensive tackle in a trade. That is something I would strongly consider if I were the Dallas Cowboys. I like the depth defensive end. Some people try to take that as like, see, they're claiming they don't need Micah. You have great depth. Like that is a fact. I don't think they're going to shop Sam Williams. I want to mention him because I think he would actually fetch you something back. Former second-round pick. Didn't play at all last year. That does kind of bring down the value, but you're not going to trade Dante Fowler. You're not going to trade Nylander or Ezra, so your options are kind of limited there. I don't think Peyton Turner has a ton of value. Sam Williams might, so I wanted to mention him. Like, if you could get a Sam Williams caliber player, but he's a defensive tackle, isn't that kind of a good idea? James Houston is next up here, and I think he would get claimed if you cut him, which would pain me, but he showed some good stuff again in the preseason, and he's played real, actual NFL snaps and has done well with them. Just kind of got caught up in a numbers game at times and had some injury stuff. I would like to find a way to keep him on the roster. If you can't, that's someone you should be shopping because I don't know if he's going to get through the waiver wire.